Okay, glad to be back with you. We're going to talk now about how to set up projects, assessment projects. And obviously there's several types. There's merchants, service providers, shared hosting providers. We're going to do one as a merchant, one as a service provider, and we will thread in payment channels, the RFTs we discussed in a previous video, whether they're the canned ones that we offer that align with the various SACs or a custom one that you've created. We'll get to them. And so that's what we're going to get into. So to get started, be sure you've clicked on the button that says Projects. And then you're going to, depending on which client it's for, right? In this case, we're going to say it's for widget sales. We're going to click a New Project, all right? And actually, this would be for showing the ones that we're at here. So we're going to choose the client right here. So in this case, I think we're actually going to define this project for Turbo Hardware Store, the new customer that we created. And we're going to call this project, this first one that we're going to do, we're going to call it Turbo Hardware Merchant Rock 2022. All right? And we may have gone a little bit too far with the limit of characters, so maybe we'll do this. We'll call it 22. There we go. And I'm going to define this as a project type merchant. I could do service provider or shared host provider or any combination of the two. Occasionally you do have customers that are both merchants and service providers. Pretty rare that you have a merchant and a shared hosting provider, but maybe it's not unheard of. Not sure. So we're going to go with a merchant right here, and I'm going to simply click Create. At this point, the project is created, but it lacks payment channels. All right. So as you know, payment channel in this case is going to be one of the specific ways that they go about accepting payments. So it might be that they have a slew of retail stores that have, you know, point-to-point encryption devices, or maybe it's more old school, possibly even knuckle busters. You know, who remembers those? And also maybe they have an e-commerce website as a secondary payment channel, and perhaps they have a call center that accepts credit cards over the phone. So, you know, those are just some examples of payment channels. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to add one payment channel that is a e-commerce, all right? And we're going to add one that is card present, that would be something like retail stores. Now, I could also add in a mail order one or telephone order, which would be my call center, or I can add any manner of custom ones that I want down here, right? And just select exactly what they are, all right? So for the time being, I am going to take this one off. And we're going to go with our card present one, and we are going to describe that as something like 50 retail stores selling hardware. Okay. And this could be based either on one of our standard RFTs, which I said were aligned with the rocks. There's all the rocks. So in this case, we're going to assume that they are aligned with a P2PE or out-of-the-box RFT for P2PE. We're going to take that. If I wanted to, I could have left this blank and selected one of my custom RFTs, which we're going to do here in just a moment. But we're going to go with the P2PE. Now, what does this not applicable reason mean, right? So a P2PE type rock is about 60 controls. And as you know, a regular rock is far more than that. And for the 60 controls, you are going to have to, you know, test those controls and, you know, input a response or interview information or whatever the case may be. And for all those other controls that are not part of this, you would have to put in not applicable. And most QSA companies like to come up with, you know, more than just the words not applicable. So here you can put a NA reason for all those other requirements, and you can make it your own. Not applicable turbo hardware. Hardware is using a PCI validated P2PE solution. Whatever you want to put there. That will show up on every requirement where it would be in scope for something like a P2P assessment, or for that payment channel, but in the ones that it's not applicable because it's P2PE. All right. So for this second one, let's describe this one as website selling hardware. All right. And we have these service provider ones, which probably don't fit, and probably neither does the P2PE one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assume that this is going to be something like a full redirect to Stripe, which would align nicely with a SAC-A. And for the not applicables related to the rest of it and this payment channel, I'm going to say not applicable, if I can spell right, Turbo Hardware does a full redirect to Stripe. Okay. Now, when I hit save, my project is going to build, and it's going to appear here as soon as it's done building, I will need to change the customer over. Let me refresh this because we didn't have any projects for this one. So now I'm going to select the client Turbo Hardware Store. That is going to show up here. I can also select anything that's created by me, anything that's active, just whatever the case may be. So let's go right here. There's the one we just created. So as you can see, there's actually only 203 total controls, remember, on 2 different payment channels. So in a future video, we're going to talk about how all that looks, how all that works, and how you want to provide responses for each payment channel. But we're not going to get into that in this particular video. The next thing I want to do quickly is show you how service provider rocks are set up, and how instead of a payment channel, you have what we call service channels to define. All right. So I'm going to create another new project. All right. And I am going to call this one, I'm just going to call it SP Turbo Hardware. I don't think Turbo Hardware would be in the business of doing something for one of their customers, but as a service provider, but you never know. Maybe they license their credit card processing to maybe it's a multi-level marketing company, and I don't know, something like that, something crazy. You never know in this world. So in this case, we're going to select service provider, and we're going to click create. All right. And here we're going to add service channels. All right. Service channels, there's a lot more of these to select from. You'll recognize this, I'm sure, from the service provider AOC. All right. So in this case, let's say that they are simply providing internet e-commerce type services to their multi-level customers. All right. You can select any number of these payment gateways, whatever it is they do. These are all coming from the rock, right? And whatever the case, or you can add a custom one. All right. So in this case, we're going to leave it at that. We're going to describe it. Provides payment services for licensed hardware stores online. And we're going to hit save. And at this point, we now have the SP Service Provider Turbo Hardware. Now, what you didn't see there that is about to come true, I promise, is the ability to apply one of the custom RFTs. That is a feature that is already being tested. It'll be ready here, I would imagine, in the next 30 days. I will update this video when it is ready, and I'll show you how to apply a custom RFT to the service providers. All right? So in the meantime, that's all I wanted to show you in this one, is how to create these projects. Thanks for watching.